Okay, wow. This is how you make an upgrade. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 has been out for roughly a month now, and that right there is pretty great. But The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on this console is truly beautiful. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Okay, so Tears of the Kingdom. Now, this already was a pretty fantastic game on Nintendo Switch 1. I would say one of the top three greatest Legend of Zelda games. But now on Nintendo Switch 2, this game is really greatly improved. With updated frame rates, updated visuals, and updated draw distance, you can really tell pretty much everything that this is an upgrade over the Switch 1. And honestly, I really love this game so much, especially with Zelda Notes, Korok hunting, finding shrines, and finding all the mini boss fights and things that you can use to 100% the game. This truly is the game that you can 100% and you can feel, wow, I did it. I finally did it with my trusty old phone, Zelda Notes. Now, Zelda Notes, I use that thing like my life depends on it. Playing The Legend of Zelda with Zelda Notes is so special because not only can you see all the Koroks and all the shrines and all of that stuff, but you can also send items to your friends. You can also get pre-built auto builds from the application, which is really great, by the way. Also, you get bonuses from using amiibos. Now, you want to use amiibos, even though amiibos are pretty awesome. I love using amiibos, just, putting your amiibo on once a day. And not once did I time skip to get all the different costumes super early. Because I think that just putting on the amiibo once per day, as Nintendo intended, is pretty great because it's just like, okay, so I got this one day, I got this the next day. Overall, that's pretty much something that you could have done in the Switch 1 version. But hey, we're here on Switch 2 and we're just trying to have fun with that. Getting a whole bunch of different bonuses from once you get to your 7-day streak is pretty great. So yeah, obviously, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is greatly improved. Now, if I were to take this game right here, one's on the left and one's on the right. Yeah, we're doing this again. Would you be able to tell which is the Nintendo Switch 1 version and which is the Nintendo Switch 2 version? It's a very interesting topic because you can see that one might look better, but also maybe the draw distance is worse, maybe the frame rate is worse. Who knows? But anyways, the Switch 2 version, obviously, is just a massive upgrade. But not to say that the Switch 1 version of Tears of the Kingdom is bad for any means. I think that the Tears of the Kingdom Switch 1 version of it is really great for what it does. The Switch 1 is like 8 years old, and this game runs beautifully. Even when it released, it was like, wow. How in the world did they do this and make it run? When some games just barely run in the system, when you look at Tears of the Kingdom, that thing runs beautifully. And you barely see any frame drops when you're jumping from Sky Island all the way down to the depths on the Switch 1, which is pretty great. But you can notice a little bit of frame drops when you jump from the sky and then you go all the way down. But when you finally reach that little glimpse where it's like opening up the depths, you see a little bit of a drop. The Switch 2 really utilizes the power of the Switch that gives you can jump in, no frame drops, no nothing. You can walk around Korok Forest and you're perfectly fine. The gloom effects don't affect you in any way. It's just perfect. It's overall just a fun game. And the story is pretty much the story, but the different stories that the Zelda Notes application gives you, which is really great. It tells you pretty much what happened, and it kind of gives you like that little sense of a different game in a way. So we're getting the prequel of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom in probably December, November, something like that, in the form of Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. But the little voice memories, they give you a sense of story that you're probably going to hear more on from that game. It's kind of like a sneak peek on what that game has to offer. So yeah, overall, I just wanted to say that Tears of the Kingdom on Nintendo Switch 2 is truly beautiful. From the frame rate, from the, draw distance. Yeah, that's another thing that I really got to bring up and go more on depth on. The draw distance. So that right there is very much improved from the Switch 1. So the Switch 1, you can see so far before things start popping in. But the Switch 2, it's more like a nice, smooth transition. If you were gonna go in an editing software and put in like a smooth transition where it's like, okay, it starts to blend into the game, that's pretty much what the Switch 2 version of the game gives you, unless maybe my Switch is broken and that's not what it's supposed to do. But I feel like that right there looks really, really great when it kind of just like smoothly just transition in. So it's like, it's not loading fully, but when you get closer to it, it like smoothly just like gets bigger and brighter so you can see it more clearly. And the loading times are greatly reduced, which is great. You can fast travel from one end of the map all the way to the next end with just seamless transparency. And honestly, I just can't wait to see what else there is for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, originally, I wish that Nintendo would have made the Switch 2 edition actually have something different than just Zelda Notes. What if we had DLC for the Switch 2 edition? But I see why they didn't do that. Maybe they ran out of ideas that they didn't want to do that. Maybe they didn't want to do a copycat of what Breath of the Wild gave you. But whatever the case may be, I think that this game still is one of the greatest Legend of Zelda games and is muchly improved on the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 gave you a lot. It made you enjoy the story even more than you already did. It made you enjoy the game, heck, even more you did. And I just can't stop playing it. Zelda Notes is truly a special application. And even though I wasn't the biggest fan of having to use your mobile device to pick up and play and then look where the Koroks are, look down at your phone, and then the voice memory or the voice access, whatever the guide, picks up and says, okay, so you have to go here, you have to go here, you have to go here. It's pretty nice that that actually happens in your phone application. But I think it would have been still pretty cool to see on Nintendo Switch 2 itself. But overall, it's Zelda Notes. Zelda Notes is very, very addicting, and you really gotta wait until your phone dies to actually get up and do something, because it's just, for me, you pretty much collect all the Koroks as you're playing through the game. Just like in Breath of the Wild. You look for a Korok, okay, I'm going this Korok, and you pretty much make a path all the way, all right, this Korok to the next Korok to the next Korok, and you make that path last all the way until you need to go somewhere here. Like, if you need to go for Kakariko Village, for example, you get every single Korok that is in your path, and you get going to Kakariko Village. It truly is a masterpiece, and I love The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for Nintendo Switch 2. Even though this was just pretty much for Tears of the Kingdom, I still gotta put in Breath of the Wild. How these two upgrades are really, really great. And if you have a Nintendo Switch 2, but decided not to get Tears of the Kingdom, or just wanted to know more on that stuff, you know, it's really, really great. It really is a masterpiece for the Legend of Zelda series. Zelda Notes is truly special. I really, really love it. So, yeah. What do you think about this? Do you think that the Legend of Zelda, Zelda Notes, the Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition is a special version of the game? Which it truly is. It's like one of the greatest versions that I've played. One of the greatest upgrades that I've played in like years. And honestly, if I were to pick from Breath of the Wild Switch 2 to Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2, let's do a comparison real quick. Alright, so there's one game on the left and one game on the right. You know how this goes, but I tried to match everything up so smoothly. So do you notice a difference? Which one is Breath of the Wild and which one is Tears of the Kingdom? Everything is like deactivated, so will you be able to tell which one is Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition, which one is Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you had a fantastic time watching. Hope you have a fantastic day. Consider to hit the like button, maybe subscribing if you're new. That is completely up to you. And thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you watching this video and helping support this channel. And with that being said, hope you have a fantastic day. See you in the next one.